It is 1 o'clock Eastern U.S. time on Thursday, the 9th of March 2023. Thanks for joining us. I think we've picked a pretty good day for this. The market's pretty quiet still. We're still sitting sideways here. So we'll work on something extremely important to traders, extremely useful, which is our confidence. Okay. So we have my favorite guest here of all time is Jared Tendler. He always has something useful to say, and we're going to have him on. And our focus today is strategies to unleash trading confidence. I want to remind you that derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors, since we'll be talking about futures potentially. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. And then, of course, the opinions represent the person offering them and don't necessarily represent my opinions or the opinions of Convergent Trading or its officers. Let's dig right in here real quick, and I'll go over what we'll cover today. So we're just very quickly go over our objective. We'll remind you what Jared's background is, and then we'll talk about scenarios. So we have 4 scenarios that are very, very common to traders that we'll discuss. And Jared's going to look at each scenario, and he's going to offer strategies or items you can do to help improve the outcomes potentially on those scenarios. So without further ado, let me just get Jared on here as I cover the objective. Thanks for coming on, Jared.
Hey, Murad. Good to see you as always. A lot of fun.
So today, and also we have Landau from Convergent Trading, who's here, part of the panel.
How's it going, everybody?
Hey, Landau. Our objective today really is to just focus on strategies to build resilience and higher confidence. That's what we hope you'll walk away with, some ideas, maybe potentially some tools to be able to do that in the form of my favorite psychology book. Everyone can produce an edge in the market. It is our confidence that determines the quality of execution. Execution is where the rubber meets the road. And if you don't have the confidence in what you're doing, your execution is always going to be lacking. You might follow your plan, but then as soon as you're in, you're out because you're too scared to hold on to the trade or whatever. So real quick background on Jared. Jared's a former aspiring professional golfer, has a BA in business and psychology, MS in counseling psychology, focused mainly on performance psychology. He's written several books, The Mental Game of Poker, The Mental Game of Poker 2, and The Mental Game of Trading. You see the book right there. If you don't have this book, not that Jared's paying me to say this, I say this willingly. This is by far the best and most practical book out there in terms of dealing having actionable steps to actually deal with performance issues, execution, psychology issues, and so on, just mapping the process you go through mentally. So please go get that. Also on his website, jaredtendler.com, he put out a free ebook about intuition. This has been around for about, I'd say, 3 to 6 months, something like that, or maybe longer?
No, actually, probably just a couple months after the trading book came out. So it's about 18 months now.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we talked about it last time.
Yeah.
This is a freebie. Just go have a look. And this is kind of a preview on how Jared thinks about these issues. So we're going to talk about the trader confidence scenarios, but I did not introduce, for those of you who are new, I did not introduce Convergent Trading. And we're just going to take a moment here with Landau to talk about what Convergent Trading is.
Yeah, so for those of you guys who don't know about Convergent already, we have a membership, a community where we bring together like-minded traders, people who are focused on taking trading seriously as a career professional. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be a full-time trader, but it's for traders that really want to take a serious and dedicated approach to their trading and to improving as a trader. We have a chat room that features focused and dedicated chat channels for a variety of different products. We have just a variety of different topics that come up there. Everything's very professional and dedicated. We also have a lounge, room. So if we, want to have the more relaxed conversations there. That's great as well. We provide weekly webinars. So these webinars are focused around not only market related information, but also trader development. So we have things like group mentoring sessions. We have member study halls that are on specific topics. Every once in a while, we bring somebody like Jared around and dive into trader psychology. We also have CT News, which is a live news feed, an audio news feed that also has a written feed, and this will get you your news in real time. Really can't emphasize how important a high quality news feed can be to your trading. And we have the Trade Right program. So this is a structured program that really provides you with the foundation and the foundational concepts that you need to really approach trading like a professional. It's kind of the all-encompassing program of what we're all about at Convergent. Where it comes, whether it's market information, the methodology, assembling your process, managing your trading business, and holding yourself accountable to other traders. So,
and that's all included within the subscription. The Trade Right program is not something you have to pay for.
Yes. So we have a Trade Right Access group, which is our quarterly and annual members, and those members get access to the Trade Right program as well as the group mentoring sessions, and for accountability partner matching. So Convergent, on behalf of you'll submit a request form, and then we'll go out and seek a match, an accountability partner for you. So you can kind of get all those bases covered in your trading there. And I believe we have a special offer here. If Morab wants to hit the next slide.
Yes. Sorry about that.
No problem. And yeah, so we're currently offering $50 off of your first quarterly membership. And that quarterly membership would provide you access to the Trade Right program, group mentoring, and your accountability partner matching. So if you guys use code CONFIDENCE at checkout anytime between now and April 9th, which is 30 days from today, then you'll be able to get that $50 off of your first quarterly membership. And you can find that at gotoct.pro/quarterly-join.
Very cool. Thanks so much, Landau, for that intro. Here, let's dive into our first scenario. So, Jared, let's get down to business here. First scenario, I'm in a drawdown. I'm questioning the viability of my strategy. I start to desperately look for something that will work. I'm looking at the next influencer or whatever, and to get me back to making money again. My focus is on making money back. What is probably happening to me here mentally, in your opinion?
Yeah, so I will dive into this. I want to just take a quick step back to just talk about confidence as a concept first. A lot of people think confidence is like something that's more solid. It really is an emotion. And when you treat it like an emotion, then it's vulnerable to the underlying flaws, biases, wishes, illusions, hopes, dreams that can really influence any of our emotions, right? So it could be FOMO, anger, revenge, greed. And so when we look at confidence as being an emotion, we're looking at the variables, those flaws that will really start to influence it. So here we are, in a drawdown, questioning the viability of my strategy. Well, we have to find out kind of what is going on situationally here. Now, in my experience, when I work with a trader, one of the first questions I will ask in this situation is, how well have you actually been trading? If we were to grade your performance, has your performance been an A or has it been more like a B minus? Because if it's been a B minus, then is it really the viability of your strategy, or is it the viability of you as the executioner or the trader of that strategy? And it's really important to do that, because if you misdiagnose what's happening here, you could be sent on a wild goose chase that's going to, make things actually a lot worse. And one of the problems when you're in a situation like this and you're feeling that sense of desperation and you're basically just like looking for something to work, you are not sober. I say that because I'm not saying that you're drunk, but you are emotionally compromised. And when you were drunk, I mean, there's just a lot of things that are not quite as crystal clear that is going to lead to some poor decision making, as has been the case for many people who've been drunk, myself included. So what is going to help you to be sober here? It's like you got to be really honest about how well you have been trading, and if you've been trading at a very, very high level, maybe not perfect but close to it, then you can start to question whether or not there's something going on in the market, or there actually is something legitimate going on with your strategy. But the key here is that you don't want to just jump to conclusions and start randomly searching around for something to fix what's going on. You want to first kind of get in and do more diagnostics around your own strategy and your own understanding about the market. I think this is more true for newer traders than more experienced traders. But it's just easy to think that because you don't know as much as you maybe should or see others capable of doing in terms of that kind of self-diagnostic, that you don't know enough to even do it, and you start looking for answers from somebody else. And it's just important for you to have an opinion first. Then you can go look at and get advice from others to help you out. But I think the bottom line is you've got to be a lot more objective first and foremost, and then you can start to take steps. This is hard because there are no, kind of objectively clear, correct answers here. But it gets a lot easier when you start to rule out certain factors. And if you can't rule out that you've been trading well, then it's hard to know. Like, so let's just take the scenario that you actually have been trading quite poorly, and your confidence is down because of that. Well, then you got to deal with the causes of that poor trading, which could be anger or FOMO or revenge trading, things like that. Well, then those become the problems that you want to fix first. We're not going to deal with the confidence. The confidence is coming as or the lack of confidence is coming as a byproduct of that poor trading. And you've got to figure out, the underlying kind of flaws that are, causing you to trade poorly to begin with.
That's very interesting. You're telling me I have to go look at myself first? That's too hard.
I know.
I just want to find the
kind
next edge.
Yeah.
Okay. Technically, how does this tie in? I mean, is that part of what you addressed here, that we need to start looking at how we're actually trading and therefore assess whether the problem is technical versus we're not really doing what we're supposed to do? I mean, how does the mental, what's happening to me mentally versus technically, how do those kind of interact in this kind of scenario?
Well, I mean, certainly if your results are poor and you've been doing things right, eventually sometimes you'll crack. And then the desperation will come in and you're just like looking for anything to win back money, in which case then, yes, at that point, it's a mental issue, not a technical one. Or at least we think, right? I mean, conceivably, you could be, your timing could be off. The actual regime has changed, and the viability of certain setups that you have they're just not going to work right now. And you either have to just like ride it out, or you take a break, you look for other, kind of short-term strategies that might be viable. But I think when you have that kind of mental break where you know that you are actually contributing more to the cause, it's kind of the wrong time to fix it. And I know this is tough because if you're in the situation, the answer you don't want is to like, listen, you got to take a break, sober up so you can actually look at this more objectively. But I think one of the problems that a lot of traders get into is that when they're doing well, they kind of take their foot off the gas pedal in doing this mental game work, and they ignore small signs of weakness that, will accumulate and become bigger problems in a drawdown. So I think part of the answer here is actually being proactive at continuing to work on your mentality and continuing to make progress. It is so common for people to come out of a drawdown, be doing well again, and then just like not work even on, their strategy or their system as much. And that overconfidence then becomes part of what makes a drawdown even more severe. So I do think part of the longer term answer here is greater consistent work so that you're not surprised by the problems that might show up here. But if this is kind of where you are now and this is your starting point, then like look backwards kind of retroactively, almost do like a back testing of your own emotional state, over the past, days or weeks, however long this drawdown has been going on, and really look for the subtle signs that were evidence that, for example, you have a lot of drive and desire to want to get into a position prematurely, but you keep yourself out of it. Now at a certain point though, you're not going to be able to stop that from happening. And so if you see those early warning signs, then you can kind of take action then, not in this drawdown, but in the next one, and kind of figuring out that kind of map, right? Really understanding the kind of the trajectory and how this, your reactions will tend to occur in a drawdown is important for the next one. So yeah, while you may be dealing with a lot of chaos and crap, you can begin kind of preparing for the next drawdown by better understanding what the heck happened here, which is not an answer to what's happening right now. But generally speaking, when you do something productive, you start to feel a little bit lighter and a little bit more productive, and just it can kind of change your confidence a little bit. I'm not saying it's going to change your results immediately, but sometimes it just takes like that one step in the right direction to lead to a second and a third step in the right direction.
So in summary, the strategy here for dealing with this issue where you're in a drawdown, things have been okay, and it's just, I'm not getting the returns, and now I'm desperate to find, for whatever reason, I'm running out of time, or maybe I'm taking small losses or something, or I'm not getting to where I need to be. The strategy here is pause for a minute and ask yourself, are you really executing at a high level? Are you your execution, you're following the process, your process, is that at 100%? If not, then that's something that needs to be addressed. What happened along the way that caused it to deteriorate? There's the potential that the market has changed, but really we need to stop and look at, why is this strategy working? Was working, and now it's in a drawdown, and all of a sudden you want to just pick it up and throw it in the trash. Let's pause for a minute and look at ourselves and how we've been executing that strategy. And then the other piece is there's a potential here that maybe you're due for a break, right? Oftentimes for my prop traders, for myself, when I can't see what the market wants to do, case in point, the last 2 weeks, I just don't trade. 0 trades yesterday, which is unusual for me, but I just don't trade. It's time to step back, so we're not married to the result. And in the technical side, as always, you have to refine. So to me, the example you gave about what little things have crept in, I'm imagining an airplane taking off from LA for New York, and the pilot's not making small corrections. All of a sudden they're flying over Atlanta, way south, a few hundred miles south. And so you, as a trader, what you're saying is, as part of our process, we need to just make sure we're aware. We bring awareness to the small things that creep in, things that we let slide that are part of our process, so that we don't end up in this spot here. But if you are in this spot as a trader, you're looking at scenario 1 here, the step to take, the strategy is to step back and really scrutinize, how have I done? And just to be honest with the answer there, is it you, is it the market, right?
Yeah, it's well summarized. And I guess I would add one more thing, which is, kind of to this scenario, it is very common for traders to literally just like go out into the marketplace for trade ideas and just like randomly looking for something to be like the finger in the leak in the boat, right? Like something to kind of stop the bleeding. And if you do that fairly randomly and you make money immediately, your confidence is actually worse than it was prior to that, because now what you've done is you've reinforced a really bad process that is actually undermining all of the work that you've done to this point. And so you're basically, as you said, right, just tossing into the garbage. Like, think about what that says to you. If you were working for somebody and, you'd built this like kind of body of work, and your boss comes in and just brings in, like a garbage crew, takes all of it and throws it into the dumpster. I mean, that would feel pretty bad. That's effectively what you're doing, right? You're just tossing all that work in the garbage. So, the desperation for money or for something to work immediately, even if you get it, you might not be in a better position than if you kind of hold the course and work the process, work your system, work your strategy for getting better as a trader. It's not just the actual strategy that you're deploying in the market. You have a strategy for getting better. I think a lot of traders are can very easily like revert back to this default of like, I'm here to make money, versus the default should be, I'm here to be a highly skilled, competent trader who makes money. And that's a slightly different, way of coming at it, which I think is an important reframe.
Very subtle. When you state that, it just seems like, wait, isn't that the same thing? But actually, it's a whole world apart. It's the guy who's doing, 360 layups versus the guy who's following the steps that coach is prescribing so that they can win the game, so that they can progress in their career, right? So one looks good, feels good. The other is just being a professional. Really, that's the difference.
Yeah.
Very cool. We'll look at the second scenario here. Scenario 2, I've done the work. I'm sticking to the plan. I'm disciplined. I get decent results, but nothing great. I'm just chugging along, seeing a little bit of returns here and there. This runs for a period, and then I completely blow up by losing 2x, 3x, or more of my daily loss limit. I just gave up my last month because I just, the market moved down. Why is it moving down? It should be going up. I've been getting long all day. And I do this to myself over and over and over. I'd love to throw a poll out there. I'm not going to do that, but I'd love to know how many people of the 200 some odd watching live right now, and later the thousands that be watching the recording, I wonder how many people fall under scenario 2. So what are the strategies for breaking that cycle, and what are the strategies for just maintaining that kind of period of returns and process, and avoiding this blow up phase? What's happening within me that causes me to just blow up periodically?
Yeah, I mean, there can be a handful of reasons for this. One of which is a general impatience. We'll call it more of like a macro impatience versus the micro, like I'm impatient and kind of want to get into positions kind of fast. The macro impatience is like, I want to accelerate my career. I want to be making more money faster. And that macro impatience, again, it's not like the micro, right? It's every single day you can feel yourself. Right? You can see in the description, right? There are times where you're patient, but when the macro starts to add up with a, kind of a flat growth curve in a sense with your P&L, it now starts to stand out in your mind a lot more. And you then start to do something desperate, something trying to like make something work quickly. And so you've really got to look at like, what is the source of that impatience? And maybe you have expectations about this trading enterprise and, how fast you can be able to, kind of scale up and make it viable. If you're trying to, get out of a job or get out of a life situation that is not really that desirable, and trading feels like your way out, then the urgency to do that is a lot faster. And again, day to day, you can be patient and understand there's a process, and you can be committed to that until you reach this point where you're just not getting the results you want, and do something like this. And so it's like seeking the easy way out. You're kind of trying to cheat the process. And just like I mentioned a few minutes ago, if you get it right, if some of the really highly leveraged or highly risked, or over risked trades that you take here pay off, you are way worse for it. It's not about making money in trading. It's about how well can you continue to leverage your edge over time and preserve capital as well. So yes, the goal is to make a lot of money in the long run, but many people, not just traders, right? Many people don't think about what comes next. If you are, trying to make $1 million, I hand you a check for $1 million. What happens next? Are you going to keep it? Are you going to be able to grow it? I mean, we know the statistics in the lottery, right? 80% of lottery winners go broke within 3 to 5 years, or back to their prior income level. The NFL, the NBA, like former athletes, there's actually a great 30 for 30 documentary on ESPN called Broke. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars that professional athletes have blown in their post-retirement career because they didn't know how to preserve and grow their capital. So a lot of times this impatience doesn't look beyond to the next step. What is going to allow you to continue to grow? Is it the fact that you have money in your account? No, it is your skill and competency in being able to be proficient as a trader. So yeah, I'm not saying any of this is easy. That is why most traders are not successful. So if you're going to do something atypical, you have to do something different. And being able to, again, recognize those early signs that you're getting impatient, they are there. This blow up does not come completely out of nowhere. I can promise you that. There are warning signs that you have the potential to see. You just have to look. And once you see them, then you tackle yourself, right? Maybe it's take a day off, give yourself a hard reset and say, all right, look, I am vulnerable to doing something really, really dumb. So how am I going to not do something dumb today? Well, let me just stick with some, only my A-level trades. I'm going to size them maybe 70% of their normal size. And I'm just going to kind of get back into a good rhythm again. And you become the one that resets you, right? These blow-ups have a way of resetting you, but they are setting you back in that process. So can you create kind of that mental reset on your own independently? That is a skill that traders need to have, period, at any level. So develop it now. It's going to help you actually grow. I mean, I know I've said a lot here, but.
So the reset, what you're saying is the reset that is actually needed, that a trader can actually do without paying 2 times, 3 times their daily loss limit, can happen without that limit by just, again, being aware of where they are, what their thinking is. Are they picking up garbage with every trade, or are they trading the A-plus setups? Because for those traders that blow up, it's either their broker auto-liquidating them or liquidating them, or the number gets so big that they lose hope that they'll be able to get any of it back that session, and that's when they drop the mouse and potentially smash a keyboard. And what you're saying is the strategy there is to just be aware of the periods that lead up to, or the senses or cues that lead up to that blow up. In other words, hey, look, I'm chasing. Whoa, 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 I'm chasing. Stop. And this, as someone who's smashed a keyboard or two in the past when I was younger, this really goes back to when you're aggressive in an argument. How do you make an argument just be an argument where you just say, whoa, okay, I'm not engaging anymore. I'm just going to walk away because I'm liable to cause a lot of damage? Or what'd you say? And then you start throwing fists. Most traders tend to feel like they're in a position where their back is against the wall or in the corner, and they have to throw fists when all of that's imaginary, because the stream of ticks and potential wins and losses is infinite. There's nobody pushing you against the corner but yourself. So you just have to go through it enough or be aware enough to say, I don't need to do this. Like, I don't need to have this argument with this concrete wall and punch it and just end up breaking my hands. Maybe this time I should just back off because I'm feeling heated. It's the awareness to that point that's difficult for people in the moment.
And so that's why, I talk about in the book, right, the sort of mapping of your process, mapping of your emotions, right? So these things happen again and again, right? This is not like the one time it's happened. It happens again and again. So you have the opportunity to go back into your history here and look for those warning signs. And maybe the next time around, after you've been, let's say, having 7 to 10 trading days of again, in this scenario, right, sticking the plan, doing well, that's where the alarm bells start to go off and say, okay, let me really be on the lookout for any deviation in my thought process, in my pre-market process, in my trade management, my trade execution. And if there are any deviations, I'm going to start to note them and put them into the category of like possible warning signs. And, if they keep kind of coming, well, then you can just take a break. I mean, just assume that the blow up is probabilistically more likely to happen now than it was 5 days ago. So look, what's the risk here? Is the risk greater from taking a day off, or the risk greater for staying? And we know what the answer is. I see, Tristan's comments here about becoming numb to losses. So that's another dimension that can happen here. So now we're talking about like what happens when you're actually in that cycle where the blow up is actually occurring. And that's a different, kind of part of the problem. So that can happen for a number of different reasons. But the bottom line is, at that point, your numbness is you kind of redlining with your emotions, right? Your emotions are so hot, whether it's because there's loss of confidence, whether because there's such rage in there, you've actually kind of shut down. It's unlikely to be fear, but it certainly could be, any of the ones I've mentioned. And so when your emotions are that hot, you actually lose the ability to think, right? Make decisions, plan, and actually control your emotions. So that numbness is not actually numb. It's your body and your system is just like flooded with emotion, and it's kind of shut down. So again, right, we've said you got to kind of take action before you get to that point. And if you do get to that point, then you've got to do your best to rip yourself away. And I know that is incredibly difficult to do. The other thing in here that can be problematic is what I like to call the F-its. I'm not sure how, rated R we are here, so I won't actually say the F word, but the F-its are really problematic because it's basically kind of a big gamble. Like in the moment, it feels very justified for you to triple your position size, right? Kind of looking to kind of gamble your way back. And in that moment, you are completely disconnected from the downside, from the actual kind of consequences that can come. And again, even if you do make the money, you're not going to get the confidence, in the way that you want. So, being aware of the F-its and not allowing yourself to succumb to that, right? You've got to grind your way back up naturally. So even if you've lost, let's say 50% of your account, right? Because you've been stuck in this, it's this blow up cycle. This isn't just a blow up where I blow, 10% of my account. It's like, I am literally, liquidating, 5 to 10K, at a pop. And so if I whittle my account down to 3K, that last 3,000 doesn't feel like that consequential when you've already lost 7. Let's just throw the rest in and see what happens. But the thing is, you're not learning anything new. You're just reinforcing a pattern where you think that some kind of gamble or some kind of magic is going to like pull you out of the situation. It's like, no. You have to be the one that chooses to take that step back, chooses to do the hard work and grind your way forward. And I think this is more likely to be a scenario for traders who are looking to make money primarily and not looking to actually develop the skill of being a very skilled trader. I mean, that if you're just looking for money, yeah, gamble. Why not? There's no real downside. If you're looking to become skilled at this game and be able to make money over the long term, then there's no downside to grinding your way back up and finding your way through. In fact, if anything, you really understand that that's essential. That what you're learning here is going to carry you through the next cycles. It's not going to just get you out of hell, at this one time.
Yeah, you're just trying to escape from the absolute crap feeling you're going to get once the fight is done. You're just trying to avoid that feeling of failure, lack of value. I've had that quite a bit working my way through learning the trade. You feel like, okay, I'm just an idiot. This isn't going to work, but so you fight and fight and fight. But I wonder how many people in here, as part of their trading plan and strategy, have a strategy for this. Have, as part of their risk plan, have a strategy for when I'm going on tilt. What do I do to recognize when I'm going on tilt? And that's part of your mapping process that you get into in your book. Let's move on to the third scenario here and see if you identify with any of these scenarios. We'd love to hear from you. Scenario 3, I have a process where I've identified my A+ setups. I also understand that I must take the trades that show up whenever they show up. How do I get myself to take the setups, even though my gut, and it's an important word there, my gut says that I should pass? What are the strategies to get myself to just take the setups, the A+ setups as they show up, as opposed to relying on intuition, which we've been conditioned all of our life to listen to that voice?
So we have to distinguish, and I do talk about this in that free intuition ebook. We have to distinguish between real, authentic intuition that is correct and maybe allowing you to see something about this particular setup that is, going to help you save some money in the long run, from the masquerading emotion of FOMO and fear and lack of confidence that is manipulating you into thinking that what your gut is saying is actually justified, when it's actually fear-based and you lacking confidence in the A+ setup, which could come after 3 of them in a row have failed, and you're in a beginnings of a drawdown that doesn't feel so great, and you're a little kind of snake bitten and don't want to take the 4th loss in 2 days. So if you don't have the ability to distinguish that, then you lack the the ability to properly differentiate in the moment whether or not you should listen to that voice or not, because maybe that gut is actually not your gut. Maybe it actually is just emotion manipulating you, and that is part of the mapping process, right? I talk about that in the book, but I guess I'll go maybe a little bit more into like what real intuition is. So real intuition is when your mind is operating at its highest level and you're very kind of sponge-like, right? Absorbing what the market is providing you. You can sort of sense and understand how your system, your strategy, your perspective can see opportunities that you can't fully articulate in the moment, right? And that real intuition is hard to find. I mean, and if you are a trader with less than 1 year of experience, then you cannot access intuition. You are not skilled enough because it relies a lot on your knowledge and your experience as a trader. So if you're, new to this game, just take this off the table. If your gut says you should pass, you should take the trade. Hard stop. If you're, in this game for, 5 to 10 years and your gut says pass, then you've got to be more introspective and understand, like, is that real or is it emotion masquerading as intuition?
So it's the wolf in sheep's clothing, emotions kind of looking like intuition, but really it's potentially a desire, an emotional desire to do something, and it's telling you, yeah, this is intuition, listen to it, when actually, really, for a trader, just follow your plan. Like, why are you doing anything outside of what's prescribed? I think that's tough for a lot of traders because their plan may always seem like it's not good enough. So once I deviate, I'll find myself completely off the reservation, just randomly taking trades. How do I build confidence following my process? And I think part of your answer was that is to really look at the process versus the intuition and what that intuition comes from.
Well, the deviation most likely has come because they're emotional and they don't realize it. So like, how do you build confidence when you're emotional like that? Well, you build confidence when you're emotional like that by understanding what the heck is going on, right? Understanding the nature of that FOMO, understanding the nature of that fear, that risk aversion, that paralysis that exists in your decision-making process. If you can't understand that, it becomes very difficult for you to build confidence, because then you're kind of trying to fake it. It's like you've got this problem, right? You're walking around with a rock in your shoe and you're trying to pretend that the pain's not there. Yeah. I mean, that's not a way to build reliable confidence, right? The reliable confidence comes when you have a degree of self-understanding that becomes another competency, right? Confidence is the emotion that should reflect your competence as a trader, right? And that competence is multifaceted, right? And self-knowledge and knowledge of kind of the psychological aspects is like one of those dimensions among many others. But the bottom line is, like, if your competency is weak, right, as in this scenario, then yeah, you shouldn't feel confident. You should feel more objective, like, holy crap, like, I've got to get to work. I've got to do more work on this. Like, how do you get yourself to stop taking those random trades is going to come when you have a clear understanding about why you're even doing that. And again, most of the traders I talk to, they begin trying to fix problems in the moment far too late. They don't realize there's that buildup of emotion. In this case, it's there, and it's actually compromising your ability to think and process information clearly. So reflexively, automatically, you're just going to start randomly taking trades because that's what you've done in the past. And to do something different means you've got to catch the emotion early when you still have, more of your mental faculties to be able to do that. That's just a fundamental principle of how the brain's wired.
Very cool. Okay, so since we're running out of time here, we're going to run into our last scenario. Last scenario, I've got post-traumatic trading stress disorder, which somebody, I think a Convergent member brought that up in one of our AMA sessions. I've taken a lot of cracks at this, and I've gotten beat up. See the above 3 scenarios. I just don't know if there's an upside. What can I do to rebuild the confidence? Because we all come in pretty confident day one, right? Hey, I could do this. This can't be hard. What can I do to rebuild the confidence to come at this differently this time?
So I think the best way to think about this is like an athlete who has actually been injured, and maybe it's an injury like a Patrick Mahomes, like we're going to tape you up, shoot you full of cortisone and get you back in the game. And that's legitimate, but you got to understand that you are compromised, right? But most often we got to really look at it as an injury that's going to take some time to recover from. You can't just trade your way through this. You can't just look at it from a rebuilding confidence standpoint. You've got to really look at it as, a surgeon who can go in, take an MRI and look very specifically as like, what is the problem here? And that is a very, very difficult thing for traders to do on their own. In my trading psychology masterclass, I do talk more in depth about this, but I'll give you kind of the highlights. There are free worksheets on my website that can help you to do this. And you can kind of pull together the worksheets and information from the mental game of poker or mental game of trading to help you to do this. But the bottom line is like, you have to break apart the emotional scar tissue that has built up from your failures, from the pain points that have existed in the past, from the losses, from the mistakes, and the way you can kind of do that is to use a tool I call the mental hand history, where you're kind of digging through to understand the roots of why you took those things so hard. So, to give you an example, I had a client actually who was referenced in the book, and he came to me at the point where he was really taking trading very seriously. However, he was kind of continually being undercut because he had this very large, outsized missed opportunity. Okay, so he, effectively kind of got lucky into this position that he found, first year of trading, and closed the position, prematurely. He saw some movement. He's like, all right, I got to get out. Made $30,000, which was, a lot of money for him. But then the trade just absolutely exploded, and he could have made $250,000 on top of that. And so that missed opportunity was literally hanging over his head for 3 years before he and I started talking. And even as we were kind of working through, that pain point was so profound that it really prevented him from having full conviction. It created a lot of intensity and desperation. A lot of the problems we're talking about today were part of that. And what we found at the roots of this was like an expectation of perfection, which, as a trader, should get kind of beaten out of you pretty soon. But when these mistakes and losses, occur early on, there was this expectation that he should be able to capitalize on the full potential of that trade. And that was why the emotions were so impactful. So the mental hand history helps you to kind of dig through those pain points and build in a deeper understanding of why it is that you're still holding on to them. Because it's not about forgetting from the past. It's not about moving on from the past. We want to learn and extract maximum knowledge from our past experiences so that we can use them to help us move forward. But the post-traumatic trading stress disorder is like a lot of emotional baggage, kind of paralyzing our growth process, paralyzing our ability to use those lessons and carry us forward, right? And it's not just, as one of our friends here is, it's not just about being recorded in the amygdala, right? This is about actually like consciously working through to understand like why those mistakes happened. And in his case, it was, asking a very simple question. How could you have taken or been able to kind of hold that position to long enough to, to capitalize on at least 80% more of it? And the answer was like, I couldn't. There was nothing that he could come up with that would say that he could have done that. Now,
Right.
what he did on the other side was to understand, well, here are the things I need to learn to be able to do that. That was what was critical. That was the inflection point where he was able to see, okay. And ironically, a lot of those things he had learned already. So it wasn't like he had to now just go find them. It was about rediscovering that he did not have the capacity at that moment to be able to capitalize on it. And a lot of the things he needed to learn, he already had. So the mental hand history, again, is that tool to kind of dig in, explore this, and really take those lessons and learnings forward, right? If we're just going to treat this as a pure kind of neurological thing, I think you're just shortcutting the self-assessment process that is needed to actually remove that scar tissue and kind of work through it, like a massage therapist would work through the scar tissue in your shoulder so you can regain the mobility and functioning. That's what you got to do. It's just harder here because you can't actually physically do it. You have to mentally do the work to do it. And I know that's challenging. So again, I talk about it in mental game trading psychology masterclass and the worksheets on my website.
Yeah. And also you don't get feedback with this. You just don't know. I mean, when a therapist was working through scar tissue deep in your muscles or whatever, you can feel what they're doing and you can move your arm and feel like, oh, I got more range of motion. Cool. With trading, it's just, you don't get that.
Well, the feedback
outcomes are random.
A lot of times when I'm working with a client on this, right, this is you'll feel some kind of insight. You'll feel kind of some of that emotion kind of peel away, right? We can kind of have that interaction when clients do that on their own. They'll feel that kind of moment of insight where something kind of clicks in place. And that's kind of the equivalent of it.
Okay. We've got maybe 10 minutes for questions. So let's see if we can hit those up. Landau, what have we got?
Yeah. Real quick, actually, Jared, I have a question to follow up your comments on perfectionism. I've seen a lot of times with our members and with a lot of traders I talk to, even with myself, sometimes you're seeking clarity in a situation that you really can't have 100% certainty. And, as Morad mentioned, you're not necessarily getting that feedback. To kind of make an analogy in poker, sometimes there's a game theory optimal play, but maybe you adjust it to it's a 80% of the time is a bet here, but I'm going to bet 100% of the time because this heuristic makes sense. Are there heuristics that you could apply to trading where if I'm 80% there, I should just go for this play all the time, as opposed to seeking out the perfect clarity in situations?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're seeking perfect clarity, then either you don't understand the nature of this game, right? And you're looking for it to be like other things in your life where, I mean, I see this a lot for younger traders. So, you are, 19 to 24, kind of fresh out of school, academics, where like the expectations are very clear, right? Do this work and you'll get, a commensurate grade, unless the variance of some, rabid teacher or professor who's going to, grade you harshly. But, so to kind of like firmly change your understanding of the competitive landscape can be part of that. For other people, it's sort of an expression of a deeper underlying flaw where there's this like illusion of control. There's a desire for control at times where you can't have it. And or a desire for control for things you can't control, like your short-term outcomes. And what that does is it kind of distracts from the things that you do have control of. So, for example, you could just like literally like write a list of here are all the things I have control of, here are all the things I don't, and just put more of your emotional and mental effort towards the things that you do. Right. And obviously execution is at the top of the ball game there. So to your point, like, can you decide that 80% conviction is enough for you to take a trade? Sure. I mean, you can kind of construct the parameters of your trading however you want. But if you're seeking, control in places where you can't have it, then you either have to understand the landscape or you have to change some internal wiring that is, kind of driving you in a way that's a bit kind of excessive or illusory in a sense.
What a suffering way to go through life, really, knowing that, the example you gave where the person took 30K instead of more than 260K. And you break it down to, okay, how did you screw up? Well, I closed the trade. Yes, but how could you, why did you? Well, I got scared. What could you have known in the moment to hold on? What could have told you that this is going to 260,000, not 30,000? I don't know. I thought I did the best that I could. And that's just someone who's trying to control something that they just cannot control. It's like going back and saying, man, I wish I'd asked Cindy on a date now that I'm 50, when I was in middle school. It's like, no, you didn't have the confidence. You didn't have all the things to figure that out, but it's a learning moment. Yeah. And so you just, the long thread I have pinned to my Twitter profile, the last tweet is just be good to yourself. Like, forgive yourself. You're going to screw up and you're doing the best that you can with the information that you have. What questions do we have from our listeners, Landau?
Is blowing up common? I've never done it. I have the opposite problem where I've risk aversion.
Very common. Very common. I mean, obviously risk aversion is very common too. But yeah, I hear from clients all the time about blowing up.
Okay. Do you have any recommendations for people that are struggling with risk aversion, kind of how to build their confidence in the opposite direction?
I mean, risk aversion is under the umbrella of fear. And so you have to understand, like, what exactly are you aversion from? Like, what are you fearful of, right? Is it the losses? Is it the mistakes? Is it the the protecting yourself from failing? You're fearing something. If you understand kind of what you're protecting yourself from, then you can, again, begin to kind of identify the underlying flaws that are baked into that. One of the problems with the risk aversion is that you actually just sort of get better and better at not taking trades. And so I actually tweeted about this, I think yesterday or the day before, that sometimes if you've been standing on a diving board long enough, right, the answer is just to have somebody just shove you in, because you have to kind of overdo the strategy to break yourself out of that habit. It's like, standing on the beach long enough, right near the shore, and all of a sudden your feet are, a foot deep because you've kind of just sunken down in the sand. I mean, to get out of that rut is sometimes just, you need to kind of overdo it. But you do have, in my opinion, I think you really do need to have some understanding of the causality first before you do that. Otherwise, you're just going to end up back in this situation again, maybe worse off for it.
Mm. What are some of the early signs that show themselves before blowing up? Could this be trackable? And you kind of hit this on the mapping topic, but
yeah, it's definitely trackable. I mean, I think sometimes overconfidence is a preceding, right? So when traders have been doing really well and then they blow up, right? Overconfidence is a common one. When they've been struggling, it's usually anger or fear that are the common signals, before the blow up.
Mm-hmm. So let's say you're in a drawdown nowadays because of this market with 0 days to expiration options, which are here to stay. But you have been successful in the past. How do you come back every day? Now it seems is same. So I guess they need to work on adaptability to markets there.
Well, one thing I definitely want to interject here and say that we don't know it's 0 DTE. People are going out there and saying all these 0 DTE options are killing the market. No, macro is really doing a great job. The central banks, the not knowing, the reopening of without 0 DTE options or weekly options or whatever, this would be the same. I've been doing this 22 years. I'm telling you, under these conditions, the market doesn't know what to do. And so it chops the heck out of everybody. So try not to assign blame to a certain thing that's changing and focus more on the fact that the market's ever changing, and you just need to keep your mind on, okay, adaptability or taking a break. Think of what moves you forward. So I just want to say it's not established that 0DT is messing up the market, although a lot of influencers are making it about that. It's not about that, I'm telling you.
It's the same as the algos are stopping us out, and the big players are manipulating markets. You could have some logic for that across for numerous reasons, but obviously that's not.
We're still here. We still have to trade, and we still have to adapt. It is what it is. So the question
and I'll say something funny because it's ironic. This helps to kind of show the irrationality of that thought, because I've been hearing that from poker players for over a decade. The random number generator is rigged. Poker sites are rigged, and like at the end of the day, like, let's say they are. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to stop? Then stop. If you're going to keep playing, then just adapt and deal with the reality that you're dealing with. We don't know what that reality is.
Exactly. You're just, and I'm not picking on 11 Piece here. 11 Piece has been around for a long time. I just want to say that it's already hard. Why add to that? You're just making it, almost setting yourself up for an excuse and for a blow up or for failure. So don't think that way. Just think, okay, how do I take advantage of the fact that the market is acting the way it is? So, how do you come back every day now seems the same. It's mainly because of general market conditions. There's a lot that's happened over the last 3 years, in case you didn't notice. And the market's a pricing mechanism, and it's really hard to price what's going on right now. Let's see what happens after the non-farm payrolls tomorrow. But at the end of the day, just come in with the mindset that whatever it is, it's constantly shifting. I'm aiming at a ball that is moving through the air. What do I need to do to hit it at whatever angle it's at, whatever speed it's at? Not that the ball should be flying exactly this way or that way. That's not going to cut it. So just focus on that. Probably can move on to the next.
Yeah, next we have a really good question. Before we hit that, as our friend Dave pointed out earlier in the chat, there's about 220 people on here right now. If everybody in the chat right now could go ahead and smash the like button, we'd really appreciate it. If we could pump these thumbs up all the way as high as we could get it there, we'd really appreciate that. This next question, I like this question a lot. Regarding drawdown, what does a healthy drawdown look like, and what would it feel like?
So you want to take the technical side of that, Morad? And I think a healthy drawdown, it should be one that is exemplified by the fact that you've been trading really well, or at least trading your system really well. And what would it feel like? It could feel anywhere between slightly bad to slightly positive, right? I think sometimes, clients of mine who've been in this position, they're actually quite proud of how they've traded given the conditions and given how hard things have been. So, I'm not saying that you're happy and fist pumping that you've lost money, but you should be happy and fist pumping the fact that you've actually traded really well under harder conditions, right? So this is kind of you in the gym, right? Like lifting to kind of reach a personal best, and the amount of effort it takes to push that out is really noteworthy. And so that's kind of what this is like.
That's exactly right. I tell you, a healthy drawdown. Yeah, let's just for a minute, we're running out of time here, but I want to talk about the 4 squares, right? The top 2 squares are, I did the right thing, I got a positive outcome. Everybody thinks that this is where every trade should be. I followed my process, got a positive outcome. I followed my process, got a negative outcome. Trading is what it is. You're going to have losses. You want to be in the upper 2 boxes. Then you have the bottom left box, which is I followed a process. I didn't follow a process and I got a negative outcome. I deserve it. Didn't follow my process. And then the worst one of them all, which Jared kept going back to again and again, is I followed a poor process, or I didn't follow my process and I got a positive outcome. This is the killer. This is the widowmaker when it comes to traders. And so to this question, A healthy drawdown is you're in the upper quadrant. You're doing what you're supposed to do. You're following the path, and the market's just not paying you. It's a lot like being a competitive player on a team, football, basketball, volleyball, whatever. You lost the game, but you guys hit every ball. You just didn't have the luck. You didn't have the opportunities. But man, all the plays were perfect. Just the coach is ecstatic despite the score being negative or against you. That's a healthy drawdown. That's the only thing, by the way, that we can strive for, is just following our process. It's the only thing we control. The outcome is up to the market, and that's all there is. So that's how you can gauge whether you should continue or not. It makes it more about the market, more about the technicals, more about refining your process versus, hey, maybe I'm doing something wrong, and then you're in this like very cloudy area of not knowing, is it you, is it the market, is this? Just eliminate yourself from the equation. Make it about the market giving you the outcomes that aren't working your way. It's 1 o'clock. It's 2 o'clock Eastern. We're going to have to cut it off here. There were more questions on here that we didn't get to, but we should wrap up. Again, I want to remind you that Jared can be found at jaredtendler.com. I cannot speak highly enough of the book. There's a lot of practical work that can be done. And also the website, just even if you own the book but have not gone to jaredtendler.com, you can get the Intuition ebook. You can get the worksheets. There's just a lot of content in there you should check out. And we invite you to do that. And of course, check out convergenttrading.com if you're looking for a community of traders where the focus is about development and improvement. And then please hit the subscribe and like buttons. If you're not a subscriber to the YouTube channel, hit that big red button and then give us a thumbs up so that more people can find this content. Thank you, Jared, for coming on and making the time for the last hour. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Sorry we didn't get to your question. One question I wanted to put up on the screen here and put you on the spot, Jared, is why is Jared's book not on Kindle?
Dude, they're a pain right now. They like send me some BS email saying my price in India is too high, so I lowered the price. And now they've locked it. Kindle's not perfect. It's there. I just can't get them to turn it back on. So you can find it everywhere else. It should be on soon. I'm gonna fire off another email to them complaining right now. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, thanks for all the good words, Morad. Great to see you as always, and Landau, good to see you too, man. Wish everybody well.
Cheers. Thanks, Landau, for being here as well. Take care, everybody.
All right. Thanks, guys.